Goat Simulator. To some people, they hear that name and think funny goat game, but to others, it makes them think of
How's it going, Rez? My name's
Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier.
Top of the morning to you laddies, my name is Jacksepticeye.
In 2014, the world of indie gaming changed, and I'm being serious here. Goat Simulator showed that you didn't have to follow the AAA industry in any regard. You could make a game about nothing. You could make a game about being a goat, and that's it, and you could be a smashing success. In this game, there were no objectives, there were no missions. You were just a goat with the ability to inflict damage upon the world, and just the very implication of all these elements mixed together was enough to get everyone hooked. Simplicity was key here, and that simplicity spawned a franchise that is still going to this day. But I'll admit, I only learned that info a couple of days ago when I saw Goat Sim was coming out on the Steam store, and so after looking at the rest of the franchise, I just knew I had to play it and see if it had the same magic. So after going through all the Goat games in existence, I am now today ranking them from worst to best. Now officially, there are only 2 Goat Simulator games, but the original had 4 DLC packs, which I consider to each be their own thing, since all of them introduce new locations, mechanics, systems. Overall, there's more about these games that's different than is similar, so they're going to be rated separately. Anyway, without further ado, let's get to my least favorite game, with that being... So Goat Z is pretty straightforward. You are a zombie goat and you have to start the apocalypse. On the gameplay side of things, the changes we get in this game are pretty in-depth and pretty not at the same time. As a zombie goat, from the beginning you have the ability to infect people and turn them into zombies, and once you've kicked off the apocalypse, a whole new toy box opens to you, with that being survival mechanics. What these mechanics really all boil down to is goats gotta eat, and you spend a lot of your time in the post-apocalypse just looking for food, and this is one of the problems with the DLC. No matter what you do, you'll always be on the countdown to starving to death, and it just doesn't leave much time to go exploring and find the Easter eggs in the map, which is a lot of what Goat Sim is supposed to be about. There is a pre-apocalypse mode in the DLC that you can play that doesn't have any of the survival mechanics in it, but I don't know, it just doesn't feel right to have a Goat Simulator zombie game and not have any zombies running around in it. My opinions on this game are also due to the fact that the open world just isn't as rich as the other games, which I found disappointing, and I owe a lot of this disappointment to the fact that every single DLC revolves around a single theme or genre, and the jokes found within the DLC are usually parodies of pop culture within these genres. And look, you all know me, you know I love horror games, I love horror movies, and so this seemed right up my alley. It was going to be some horror themed Goat Sim game, and yet I couldn't find anything that I understood or found extremely funny. There are a few jokes that got me, like you can find an island that have a bunch of cult members and you can just throw them into a boiling pot of stew and unlock a new goat type. There's also another area on the far side of the map where you can literally just find the developers of the game building the map. And there's this great little detail in this area where you can find a whiteboard of to-dos for the developers when optimization is just on the low priority list. But yeah, that's about it for Goat Z. It's at the bottom of the list not because it's bad, it's just because the new stuff it adds isn't the best, and it doesn't completely maintain the charm of the base game, leaving it just a bit of a meh. Goat Simulator Payday is a crossover DLC with, well, take a random guess, and in this one you can take control of not 1, but 4 goats, if you can call them that. In the roster you get a camel, a real goat, a dolphin in a wheelchair, and a flamingo, and together these guys set out to do pranks. And I'm gonna say something here, I don't really like this DLC. In fact, the only reason it's not at the bottom of my list is because they add a lot of new stuff in this thing, but the issue is that none of it really clicks for me. So like I said, with the new stuff they add is that you can take control of the 4 different animals, and they each have their own special abilities. For example, the flamingo can fly, and yeah, take a random guess at this one, you're not gonna get it. It can hypnotize people. In the open world, you can now steal and drive around cars, and yeah, it's not all that bad until you get into the actual real meat of things, which is the pranks. These pranks are meant to kind of be spoofs on the heists you do in Payday, but the issue here is that they're just really clunky to play through. If you have 4 buddies over, you can all do split screen co-op and control these animals all at once, but if you don't, the entire experience feels really stilted. The objectives aren't clear, and even while doing them, them, it's not exactly apparent which animals might be best for the task, which I find strange considering they all have different abilities. But at the same time, I'm also happy that they didn't really put you on a box when it comes to which animals should be doing which task, because if you stop controlling an animal, then they just post up in that exact spot and they won't move until you retake control of them. So I can't even begin to imagine trying to coordinate all these guys, just dragging one to one side of the map, switching to the next, dragging him to the other side of the map. It would be horrible. Now, something that puts this installment over Goat Z is the world you can explore. Overall, the play area is just way more fun to move around, and the jokes in this game are way better. If you explore the city, you can find the actual Payday crew robbing the bank from the game, except they're just using finger guns. In the desert area, there's literally a Star Destroyer crashed outside the map, and there's even a Rocket League arena with some rocket cars you can use to play the game, or as I did, fly to the moon. So yeah, Goat Sim Payday is definitely not my favorite game on the list. It's just clunky, and playing as other animals, even if it is funny that they're referred to as goats, just feels a little bit off. Overall, the open world is what saves this DLC from being the worst for me. There's a ton of new mechanics introduced here, but none of them wholly mesh to create something overly special. Although I love the dolphin in the wheelchair. Let's get this on record. I love this guy.
Stop!
Goat Sim MMO is a DLC that parodies fantasy MMOs, and it's not actually even online. This game is a little more middle of the road for me than Goat Z or Payday, and this time it's not because of any glaring issues. In fact, with this DLC, we're entering the space of good additions to the gameplay of the base game. From the beginning, you're given the choice of being one of 5 classes: Tank, Rogue, Magician, Hunter, and Microwave. I'm not joking. You can also just play as a normal goat, but come on, man, why would you do that? Now, while all of these classes have their own abilities, combat is kind of a joke in this game, and the only reason these classes exist is to stay true to the genre. This is another reason why MMO is not higher on the list, because it's just less of a game and more of an experience. It's an immersive parody of being these MMO type games instead of having MMO mechanics while also being a parody. But the shallow gameplay doesn't make it bad, because when I said it's an immersive parody, I really meant it. This game is really funny when it comes to poking at these old fantasy MMO. Like, in the corner there's an online chat that isn't actually online. The devs just made hundreds of messages, but they managed to make it feel so authentic. People in the chat are selling items for stupid amounts of in-game currency, asking about the game, complaining. Personally, my favorite message was, charging money for games is greedy. They should be free. A lot of quests in this one are also just jokes where the punchline comes at the very end. Like, there's a quest the king gives you to go to Old Goat Mountain and defeat something called the Old Goat. And on the way there are just so many little funny visual gags, like this goat constantly rubber banding, or these 2 goats further up the hill that are obviously farming this demon boss fight for XP. And it even goes further than that. Entering Old Goat's castle, every single trap is scripted to trigger only when it can hit you, so your poor goat just gets put through the ringer. Oh, and by the way, once you find the old goat, it's revealed that he's a T-Rex, and not even a dangerous one at that. That's the punchline. What do you want from me? What do you do? Goat Sim MMO is shallow gameplay wise, but some of the jokes and the understanding of the genre it's making fun of is just done so well to the point that I could consider this game one of the best in the series. If there weren't other games that did both gameplay and parody better. Games like... So in Waste of Space, you play as a goat who crashes their ship into a space station, and upon meeting a businessman who convinces us to help him build his empire, we set out into the space station to earn some money. The gameplay of Waste of Space is a really good innovation for the formula, and it's also pretty addictive. The way you make money in the game is by smashing cash crates or literally robbing citizens of the space station, and every time you meet your cash goal, a new part of the space station is built, opening up your opportunities to make even more money and do more stuff. In the DLC, you're never stuck doing the same thing constantly because money isn't hard to come by. The excitement of gaining funds is great too, since every single reward goal sounds really fun. Like early on, you get a hover bike that you can summon anywhere on base, and even later you get your own spaceship which you can pilot around fighting space pirates, or maybe just visit your own personal starship that you get even later in the game. There isn't a dull moment while playing this. Everything is a movie reference, a game reference, and it's hilarious, it's great. And I don't really know if it's just me being more into sci-fi than fantasy, but the jokes in this one just really work for me. The company you work for in the game is literally just Kickstarter. You can get abducted by aliens and turned into xenomorph. There's even a moment later in the game where you fund a research facility on the space station, and it's literally just aperture signs from Portal. I mean, look, G-Man is right there. Overall, Waste of Space is one of my favorite goat simulators. Everything is just so fresh. The devs are on their A game with the jokes and writing. The gameplay warrants actual time put into it for once, and overall, it's just a fantastic package. So Goat Simulator 3 is pretty self-explanatory, except it's not, because it isn't actually the third game in the series. It's the second, but random equals funny. You know the series credo by now. Really, there are no gimmicks or themes here. This is pure Goat Simulator, but the polish has been cranked up to 11. With the gameplay, this installment is the culmination of every single feature that has been introduced in the past. You can steal cars, there's quests you can take on. This is the complete package. As you finish quests, you can also get more coins to level up your goat kingdom, or you can also get regular coins to customize the ever-loving shit out of your goat, or giraffe, or shark riding a skateboard, or disgusting banana man. If this game has anything, it's options, and the best part is that a lot of cosmetics aren't purely cosmetics in the game. If you get a laser visor, chances are you can shoot lasers. If you get wings, chances are you can fly. If you have a Bible on your head, you can send people to heaven instantly. I could spend hours in this game just playing with all of these things, and honestly, I probably will, since this game is so fresh, and for once it doesn't feel like a parody game. It feels like something you actually play and put time into. While there are heaps of jokes, the progression in the gameplay is real, making the experience feel really satisfying. The movement has also been overhauled in this game to allow your goat to traverse the world more easily, with moves like grinding that lets you zoom down power lines and railings like you're playing Sunset Overdrive. The goat feels way lighter to control now as well. The controls are more responsive, the goat won't ragdoll on everything it touches now, and there's just a real flow to moving around the world quickly and smoothly. Another great addition to the gameplay is the series' first feature of online co-op, and it's actually recommended that you play with friends since it's just so much more fun. There's someone else there to just see you stack it off a high cliff. There's someone else there to help you ruin a cooking competition by stuffing all the contestants into the stew. The fun of Goat Simulator is just amplified tenfold just by having someone running around with you. It's one of the best features in a game with great features. But the gameplay isn't the only thing that's been improved upon. The comedy in this game is on point. So many jokes here either make me actually laugh or at least do a bit of a nose exhale. Every mission is just designed to be hilarious in the way you actually complete it. Like so many other games in the series, there aren't many dull moments to be found here. I mean, just to name some examples, there's a mission where you run for president and the way you win is by forcing people to go into your voting booth, and there's a quest where you go to a shrink for some therapy and your goat talks so much that the whole house shrinks. Personally, my favorite one is where you go to the zoo and see this killer whale in this cube. So freeing him and throwing him in the ocean, we see that he is literally just a cube-shaped killer whale, and as he swims away, he gets eaten. Is this stuff like actually funny, or is it just this game kind of infecting my mind with brain rot? Goat Simulator 3 is the perfect evolution of everything the series wants to be and everything the series has tried. The end product is the definitive edition of the original Goat Sim idea, developed fully, but it is not the top of the list, and for good reason. Now, I'm sure you all have seen this coming. There's only one game I haven't talked about, and there's only one space left on this entire tier list, and that's best Goat Sim game ever. And it is Goat Simulator 1, go figure. This game doesn't require an introduction, mostly because, well, you made it this far into this video, haven't you? But also because this is one of the most influential indie games made during the 2010s. In the game, you are a goat. You live in a destructible world and you have the tools to do some damage within it. The question is, what are you going to do with that knowledge? Goat Simulator is about simplicity, freedom, and comedy. You are a goat, you can do what a goat does. Go have fun. That's the game, and that magical formula is what will forever make it the iconic game that it is. It's hard to really talk about the gameplay of Goat Simulator here, because for the whole video we've been talking about extensions to its core gameplay, and now without any of that, what is there to say except this formula didn't really need changing, and that's what will always make it the best game in the series. Even Goat Simulator 3 tacks a ton of bells and whistles onto the core gameplay, which they need to do to make a worthwhile sequel, but it also dilutes the magic of just wandering around this weird world as a disruptive goat. It'll take a lot for me to forget the first time I ran into the Pet Cemetery goat, or accidentally fell into the sewers and found Michael Bay's Ninja Turtles. My first exposure to Goat Simulator was on an early Sunday morning in 2014. PewDiePie just released his newest video, gameplay of an indie game called Goat Simulator. The utter freedom the game permitted was like something I hadn't seen even in Grand Theft Auto. Jump off a building, destroy a gas station, it doesn't matter. Do what you want. You're a goat. There's no consequences. That freedom, the simplicity of the game just giving the player a license to go nuts, lit my imagination on fire with the ideas of what else could be possible in video games. These other games with their bells and whistles and features are good, but I believe they lose the magic of simplicity by trying to add more. So yeah, this review is biased because the original Goat Simulator reminds me of a simpler time. A time when you didn't have to do it all with your video game. In fact, you didn't even have to do that much, proven by Goat Simulator. This was a simpler time because this game was simple and it was great, and that made sense.